I know the anecdotal evidence is not like the best evidence, but whenever it starts adding up like it is, then you have to take notice of that.
Forrest, how did you find carnivore?
Well, it was a trip that I took after I became diagnosed with metabolic syndrome. It was back in say 2016, 15. I was before that I had started getting the high blood pressure and high cholesterol, high triglycerides, and my HDL was good back then. So, but at any rate, things started happening, and metabolic syndrome. I was diagnosed with that, and then my nurse practitioner at the time, he was telling me that I needed to. At the time, he was telling me I needed to eat for breakfast. I needed to eat oatmeal and a banana, And then that happened, and I started doing that, and I loved that. I loved the oatmeal and banana. But then I came back to him the next year, and he said, "Scratch that. Don't eat the oatmeal banana." And he was also telling me I could have a beer at night. So I had the oatmeal and the banana and the beer at night. So I was really doing the wrong thing as far as I was concerned back then. And whenever I came into the year after that, he said, "Skip the oatmeal and the banana. Don't drink the beer." And go low carb. And he suggested I go on a diet called the Whole 30. Have you ever heard of that one? It's basically what they call a elimination diet that takes legumes out. You basically cutting your diet down to meat and vegetables. You still could have potatoes, but I went on that for a while, and that kind of brought me back from. I was really having a rough time of brain fog, and I was in school at the time. I was a non-trad student, and I really was struggling with it. And it brought me back from that. I had a brain fog lift a little bit, and I had all this physical stuff happening to me. I also had a problem with my back. I had a something they still don't know what's wrong with it. It's probably just inflammation. Seeing all your interviews, I see all these people with the same problem. And it was probably inflammation that I was dealing with. I've had scans and whatnot, and they still couldn't find anything really interesting. So, and my back would go out, and I just couldn't move at times. But at any rate, I was going through that. I was going through the brain stuff and the physical. I was really out of shape. For some reason, I just felt like I was so out of shape. I would go up the stairs, be winded. I could even get down on the floor and get back up, and I would be winded. My systolic was 10 off from my left, from my right. So things were happening. Things were happening that weren't great. And I was on a positive side. I was telling myself, well, it's nothing. But then there's this little voice in the back of my head saying, no, it's not just nothing. So I stayed on the Whole 30 diet, and I did that religiously. And that kind of brought me back from being really, really bad off. And then from that, I started hearing and watching videos on the keto diet. So I started keto. And I started the keto diet. I really didn't lean into the fat part of it. And I did the whole keto. I was on it probably about a year or so. And I didn't lean into the fat ever, except for the very end. I started leaning into the fat, and it kind of changed things up for me to where I was in ketosis really deeply, and I really had a control of my carbohydrate addiction, which you come to understand that it is an addiction. Because as soon as I went to carnivore, and the reason I went to carnivore is because of Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson. I saw him on Joe Rogan once, but Joe Rogan mostly. And I was already on keto at the time. And then Joe Rogan was talking about him going on carnivore and losing weight and feeling so much better. So I thought, you know what? I'm already on keto. And at that point in time in my keto, I was a lazy keto guy. I just fixed the meat, and oftentimes I just forget about the vegetable. It was just the ease of it. So I would just do that. I would just cook my meat, and I forgot about the vegetable, and I just slid right into the carnivore diet. And about, I don't know, I did have to go through a spell of, even after keto, I went through a spell of diarrhea. But other than that, it wasn't that bad because I'd already been in keto, So my body was already used to ketosis. So then I went into carnivore, and about a weekend, I started noticing, and my wife had noticed that I wasn't snoring, and I was sleeping a lot better. As far as I've always been a good sleeper as far as sleeping through the night, but my quality of sleep was much better, So that was good. First weekend, that was great. So that was good. And then about 3 weeks in, my carb cravings were completely gone. And I was feeling pretty good. And let's see, and I went on a 3-month stretch of the carnivore diet the very first time. And it's a little over a year since I started the carnivore diet. And I did 3-month stretches. I do 3-month stretch, and then after that 3-month stretch, I had to go to Amsterdam for a couple of weeks. And then in Amsterdam, I ate their food, and it didn't seem to have a terrible effect on me like American food does whenever I go off plan in America. I noticed that whenever I was in Amsterdam, by the end of the 2 weeks, like at the very beginning, I was eating small meals, and by the end of the 2 weeks, I was just eating everything on my plate, and I was going for more, So that's what carbs do to you. And so to back up just for a second, another reason why I went on carnivore, and another reason why I decided that this was a direction I could go down, was because I took a look at the evolutionary history of human beings, And, we've been in an ice age for the last 2.4 million years. And a lot of the artifacts that have been found, the Clovis people and whatnot, they've been found in the northern regions. So I basically took from that most of our intake of food was hunt and kill and eat, because these are the implements that we find. Clovis points and arrows and spears, So these are the kind of implements that we find, and we basically evolved our body type basically evolved within the last 500,000 years. And within the last 500,000 years, we've been going from glacier maximum to glacier minimum, And there's no way that we had fruit and vegetables all year round. There's just no way we had it. And I got to thinking, well, that's a good solid reasoning why I can take the step in the direction of carnivore and keep going. Because in the 90s, I did the Atkins diet, lost a little weight, but always in the back of my mind, I was thinking, I'm probably not doing the right thing here. I was getting all the information that was a terrible thing to do. And I just didn't stick with it. And I didn't stick with, it wasn't easy to stick with keto either, because basically when you're in the keto diet, you're still dancing with that carbohydrate addiction. You're dancing with the devil with that. You're taking a little bit of heroin, like a heroin addict, taking a little bit of heroin every day, and it keeps you, and it throws you into these binges and stuff. And so I think it cleared right up on the carnivore. After I went carnivore, I didn't have that anymore. So that's something that's really good and a really cool tool that people don't know we have in our quiver, is that we can go all meat and get done with all these cravings, and get away from them. And we can have health, because at some point you have to, especially how many interviews that you've done, you have to come to the conclusion that these carbohydrates are bringing in some kind of inflammation and some nastiness that we're dealing with, on a physical level. We've only had agricultural tools for about 20,000, maybe 20,000 years, but possibly just 13,000 years and up. They've had some that they found that looks 20,000 years old, but it could have been used for other things. We don't know. But 13,000 years, and that's when we've had vegetation that we've been eating. So we haven't had vegetables for very long that we've been eating on a consistent basis. So that's one of the good reasons why I decided to go down that path, because I believe in evolution. I've had biology, zoology, physiology. I've had all those ologies, and I'm pretty convinced that evolution is a fact. You know, so if we evolved to have the body plan that we do, then we had to have evolved to have certain food. You know, just like Dr. Berry says, there has to be the proper human diet. There has to be a proper human diet out there somewhere. And I've been through diets before, and I've actually been successful. One of the diets I went on, I lost all the way down from 266 all the way down to 185 pounds. But it was an eat less, move more diet. And but this diet gave you a free day that you get to eat whatever you want. So it didn't take into account the fact that there's an addiction out there that you're dealing with, and it just failed. People go on it and they do great for a while, and then it fails. But this carnivore diet, it gives you complete control of your eating. You have complete control whether you want something or not. You're not like you don't have any of these drives driving you towards binging it. It's just you can have it if you want it. You just choose not to have it because you have not willpower. It's just you don't have the desire to have it, want it. That's what this diet.
So, just to confirm, you're doing like 3 months, then going on a business trip, then 3 months business trip, 3 months business trip. Is that how it's working?
Well, that's how it's been working, because I kind of do it in 3 months. I did it in 3-month increments because I wanted to stay true to those 3 months. And then the first time I knew I had that Amsterdam trip coming up. So I did it 3 months, Amsterdam, and then 3 more months. And then after my 3 months there, then I'll like give myself a day or something of carbs. And I've learned some lessons by doing that. We can talk about that too. Because every time I go off, I have to pay. I pay the price. One time I went off. The first time I went off after about 6 months, I was on it. 3-month sections, and I thought, well, I'm just going to go get some donuts. I haven't had a donut in a long time, so I got 3 Krispy Kreme donuts, and I bought a peanut butter bar, and I'd eaten it. And that was the first time in my life I've ever had an anxiety attack. Have you ever had one of those? Oh, yeah. It feels like you're going to emotionally explode for some reason. So I've never experienced that in my life. But, I mean, I'm 54 now. And, you get to be 54 and you've had some trials in your life. And I had nothing. Nothing brought me down except maybe 3 Krispy Kreme donuts and a peanut butter bar. So that just about did it to me. But I just, what I would do is I was hyperventilating. I went outside, walked around for a while, finally got myself together. But all night that night, I was anxious. I call it carb frantic because the difference between carnivore calm and being on a carbohydrate diet is it's like you're always a little bit carb frantic, a little bit carb freakish, But whenever you're in carnivore and you're just, I don't know, it's just a calming, kind of a peaceful way of being. It's a lot better.
Yeah.
A lot.
I agreed. For you, like being carnivore has improved things that you were experiencing before, like the back pain and high blood pressure and stuff like that, including the sleep.
Oh yeah, all of my numbers. As far as my last blood work, my doctor called and she told me that everything looked good. My triglycerides were back in check. My cholesterol, surprisingly enough, was back in check. My HDL was a little low. It was 32. I would like to see it get up to around in the 50s, and everything looked great. My blood pressure back down to the 124/82 maybe. And it was in the 185s. Oh, and sometimes my diastolic was about 100 and 105 one time. It was really, but yeah, I was bad off, and this diet pretty much brought me back from the brink, I think. I really do think I was on the edge of a heart attack or something, because it just felt like I was so out of shape, you know? I couldn't believe how out of shape a body could get. But I think it was
Yeah,
because my circulation wasn't working good, you know?
yeah,
And
yeah. It's amazing the amount of abuse our bodies will take from us, right?
yeah, yeah. Well, from the top, I think let's just start from the top and I'll go down and I'll tell you everything that is improved, okay? My hair, I was hoping, but you know, it didn't happen on that. It's a little bit darker, my hair is, and I do have, I think, some more hair growth, but you know, I'll take what I can get. My brain, no brain fog, everything is good there. My mood, as far as my mood goes, it's been spectacular. It's really easy to conduct myself through life nowadays. It's easier to conduct myself through life nowadays whenever I'm so calm and cool and collected. Um, my eyeballs, they have changed, and I don't know whether my eyesight's gotten better. I think it has. I haven't been back to the optometrist to get it checked, but I think my eyesight, as far as my long distance vision, has gotten better. Something that really has changed with my eyes is the sensitivity to light. I know before I did the carnivore diet, I was always looking, like at night, whenever oncoming traffic would come down, I would always look down to the line at the right side. Well, my side of the road is the right side, so on the right side of the road, and concentrate on that line. You know, I even had a philosophy: I'm going to concentrate on the line. If anybody comes over this and hits me, then I'll be dead. But at least I was right, you know, because I was watching the line. I, I, I can be right as long as I was in the right lane, you know. Well, dead. But yeah. And then one time I was driving down the road after being on this diet for about 6 months, probably about 6 months time. And I noticed myself playing a little game, as I do sometimes. I noticed myself trying to figure out what the oncoming car was. So I wasn't concentrating on the line anymore. I was just trying to figure out what the car was that was coming at me, because the sensitivity was so much better in my eyes that I could look at the oncoming car, as it was coming past me. So definitely light sensitivity. As far as my skin goes, I think sun affects me differently now. I don't get sunburned as much. Sun used to, I don't know whether I had like a small sunstroke or what, but I used to be kind of sensitive to it. But anymore, I can get hot and in the sun, and it's good. As far as weight loss, I've lost probably, well, at my highest weight of 266, and I'm only 5'8", so, and I've got a picture here I'll show you of my fat self. That's probably 10 pounds less than my top weight right there, and I weigh 100 and probably 190 right now. And I'm really not, I mean, I did it for mainly for my health, but the weight loss is just a bonus. But the weight loss has been great. I can fit in clothes now, and don't feel so much sorry for my wife anymore. So she has to see me like that.
That's awesome. So, I mean, how does your wife feel about this? Is she concerned, like that you're on this quote unquote heart attack diet?
She's not as concerned now that I've been on it and she's seen the results of what's happened, because she saw me before and she saw me debilitated on the bed, just couldn't move because of my back sometimes. And she knows that that is much better. I couldn't, I mean, even now to this day, I am scared of holding things out in front of me, because that's what triggered my issues with my back all the time, you know? And I don't have any problems with that anymore either. I went to a physical therapist, and stretching helped it, but it didn't do what carnivore did. Carnivore took the inflammation away, as far as I can understand it. That's what happened. And I don't have near the problems. I know it's still there as far as my back issue, but I don't worry about it near what I used to. and I feel like I've just started an exercise program. That's something else I should say. I didn't exercise any through this whole year. I had not exercised because just like most people that say, if you get, you're that big, you don't really feel like moving around much. So, and I just now started to feel like I could exercise. So I started a push up, sit up, just kind of a no weights regimen, lunges, just doing that for a while. And then I'm going to start weightlifting. And so I have goals that I'm going to be setting for the future. And I just look forward to it. This is going to be great to have that and have it to where I don't have to feel pain after the workouts like I used to. And I'm kind of looking forward to all of that. But I'm kind of starting slow just because of my back and the way it was.
Mm. So how are you eating day to day?
I'm eating probably 1 to 2 meals a day. I'm eating pork bellies, beef mostly, eggs, bacon. That's pretty much and then I'll throw in some chicken and some shrimp and some salmon. So just to change things up, a little bit. Because I'm kind of bringing the wife through. Oh, that's something else I'll say because I didn't tell you about the wife. She's on a low carb at this point. So she's having problems and she's trying to fix her problems with low carb. And she sees me on the carnivore diet and she wants to go carnivore, but she travels a lot and it's going to be really tough for her to do that. She, I don't know, I don't know if I've heard or seen a video on anybody that travels and tries to do the carnivore diet, but it must be tough because you're always running into, even your meats are cooked in nasty oils, and it's kind of hard to escape it whenever you're traveling. But as much as she can, she tries to eat as much meat as she can and stays away from as much carbs as she can. So she's on the path. We just have to get her into ketosis at some point and let her feel what that feels like, and then try to get her more carnivore because it's kind of if people don't like meat to eat meat, and some people don't, but it takes a while to develop a taste for it. But you just have to have faith that your taste will change. That's something that happens over time. And a lot of people, whenever they start this diet, they think, "Oh no, I'm going to have to give up everything, and everything that I love to eat." But they don't understand that their tastes are going to follow. Some people think it has to do with the microbiome in the stomach, and the more meat you eat, the more meat microbiome you have, and the more meat they call for. I don't know exactly how it works, but I know that for a fact that your tastes do change, and you become satisfied with having that steak again, and having that same meal over and over again because it's good. it becomes good for you, good to taste.
I,
Good.
I think you're right. Like people, when they first hear about carnivore, they're so reluctant to do it or even entertain the idea because um, their perspective on the way they have to eat food is clouded by, the fact they're eating so many carbohydrates and they have to eat so often during the day to stay satiated. So they think, how am I going to be able to do this? A, no variety, and B, I'm still always gonna want to eat. But until you try carnivore, you don't understand that everything changes, right?
Yeah, you don't understand the satiation that meat gives you, just meat. If you understood that, it wouldn't be a leap of faith then, it would just be trust. But you have to get through the carb addiction before you can get your body in ketosis in order to understand that that's what you're dealing with. And until you get into carnivore, then you really understand about satiation, because I didn't even know I had that kind of a trigger switch. I always thought that whenever I felt full, I was full. But on the carnivore, you can get full without even feeling full. You're just, okay, I'm done now. You can walk about your business. There's another switch. It's a nutritional switch, evidently. Your body's like, "Oh, we see what's coming in, and
Mm,
we see the nutrition she got here. I think this is enough," or something like that, because
y-
you're done.
yeah.
And then the next
So
day you're hungry again. So
yeah, I'm interested to know if it was the same for you, but when I was kind of doing a predominantly carbohydrate diet, the feeling of fullness for me was actually feeling bloated, the kind of
Yeah,
time where you almost have to undo your pants.
yeah, you have to use
And
your stomach stretch receptors just to get, just to feel full. Yeah, I think you're right. But then again, I was telling you that you got another switch. It's a nutritional switch. And if
yeah,
you eat meat, you figure out you got it.
for you, is this something that you can see yourself doing for the rest of your life?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm not going to switch. This is something that I've I've done several diets. Like I said, this is the only diet that I've ever done that I've ever been off of the diet and wanted to get back on the diet. Like whenever you get off, you're like, hey, these things are happening, and now I can't breathe much, and it's something else that's my breathing has gotten so much better. I used to be a mouth breather, didn't wasn't really realizing I was a mouth breather, but now that I've been carnivore, like it's almost like my nasal passageways has just cleared up, and it really is my. If anything, if I eat anything out of ordinary or out off the plan, then that's the first thing that hits me. Is it'll start right there. That's like my allergy detector or something because it affects my breathing, and I can't breathe as good as I used to. And then, so going on carnivore, I'm a super breather now, and I don't know. I like being a nose breather. There's something about it.
Uh, I've had a similar experience, and I think this is like having to breathe through your mouth is very illustrative of some of the domino effect kind of problems you can have with your health. So for
Yeah,
me, like I couldn't lie down and go to sleep and breathe through my nose. I can now, but prior to carnivore, I couldn't do that. So the whole night, I'd be mainly breathing through my mouth. And then I'd wake up the next day and my mouth would be super dry. And I think as a result of that, that contributed to the gum disease that I had. That contributed to the decay of teeth. That
yeah,
contributed to all of these issues. And then all of those issues then go on to have more health consequences. And it's just this cycle, and it just starts
yeah,
off with you're not eating properly, so you can't breathe properly.
yeah. It's a snowball effect. Yeah, I can. That's the one thing that will keep me on this plan for good is that breathing. I mean, most everything is really great, but the breathing for me is such a big bonus. I didn't even know that I couldn't breathe very good, until I got on the carnivore and thought, hey, there's something up. My allergies, I don't really have much of a problem with allergies anymore. My allergy symptoms have diminished, and I think that there's some connection to that with the carnivore because you hear that a
Yeah.
lot with people. And a lot of
Mm,
these things that I'm saying, I mean, it's over and over again. You're hearing the same thing. Same people. People have the same issues, and they're pretty much clearing it up with just eating meat.
yeah. Yeah, it's like everyone's experience is, just their experience. But when there are so many people all having such similar experiences, that points to something, right?
Yeah, I think it does.
Mm,
Especially, I mean, I know the anecdotal evidence is not like the best evidence, but whenever it starts adding up like it is, then you have to take notice of that. There's too many people that are doing this that are coming away with the same results, and there has to be something to it. And our medical system are they're turning a blind eye, or well, maybe they're not turning a blind eye. I just heard a story this morning where a baby has she's got leukemia or something in my family. I think it's leukemia, and the doctor told her to get the baby on beef and just feed it beef for a while. Yeah, so it looks like it may be turning around, but still there is a massive movement to do away with meat, eating meat. Like on my Facebook feeds, I always get these vegetarian meats and whatnot. And luckily, I'll get on the comments, and there's some voice of reason on there saying, "Hey, we're carnivores, hello." But there's a lot of people that are bought, and a lot of people that see that, and it gives them the wrong message that plants are the best thing going, when it's really not. You had a gal on there the other day that said plants are plan B, and I think that's pretty much how it goes down. Plants, we can eat plants, but we only ate plants when we couldn't kill what we wanted to eat. I'll have a root or two,
Yeah.
And going back to the first, whenever I was saying that we evolved to do this, we didn't have plants all year round. It's seasonal. So there's no way we had plants all year round. Maybe on the equator they had plants that they could eat all year round, but not most people didn't have, especially at the ready where they had it handy. They didn't have it to where they could eat it all year round. So I don't necessarily think that we're just carnivores because we have the amylase in our mouths, that breaks down carbohydrates. There's certain things that that make me think that we can eat something with sugar in it. But yeah, everything that we eat that it changes to sugar in our bodies, any kind of carbohydrates or sugars, whenever our body detects glucose, fructose, or sucrose, our pancreas sends the insulin up, which has been studied to increase your hunger, increase the amount of food that you eat, and pack the lunch. The insulin puts it away for us. So that's telling me that whenever our bodies ran into fruits and vegetables in season, then it told our bodies, hey, winter's coming. We need to pack a lunch because we're going to be without for a while, or, possibly. So it's just like a bear, eating a bunch at the end of winter to gain weight for his hibernation. That's pretty much what I think we're doing. And whenever our bodies run into vegetables, because whenever it runs into fruit or whatnot that's now ready to eat, it's the fall, it's ready. We're ready to go into winter after that. And our bodies are seasonal. So I think that we're just it's either we can eat meat and then eat fruit and vegetables in season, or we just eat meat and then eat fruits and vegetables whenever we don't have meat to eat. I think that's probably pretty much how it was.
Yeah, one of my guests described it once as facultative carnivore. So we're always going to prioritize meat, but yeah, like you say, when it's not around, then we can do the other stuff, but it's as that plan B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest reasons why I was on the Atkins diet before, but one of the biggest reasons what kept me on the carnivore and made me go down this direction is because I was pretty sure that we evolved with meat being our main source of, food.
How if someone was one of your friends or a relative was getting started with this, what would you recommend to them? What advice would you give them?
On how to get started, I would probably tell them first to take out all the white sugar, flour, all the carbohydrates they can. Just do away with as much as they can for as long as they can. And that would be the first step. Then go into more of a vegetable meat kind of thing, whether it's just really low carb vegetables and cruciferous vegetables, and then get yourself into ketosis with the vegetables and meat and fat. And once you get yourself into ketosis, then you can understand what you're doing. And all the while you're doing this, understand that you have a carbohydrate addiction. I think everybody does to a certain extent, and some people can deal with it better than others. But that's what we're fighting, I believe, is the carbohydrate addiction. If we can understand that concept, then you can understand how to get into ketosis and then have that feeling that you don't need those carbohydrates. And then you can get into carnivore, and it's pretty easy that way, just to slide right in. And that's how I did it. I didn't mean to do it that way. It just came about that way. So I did it pretty much the easiest way you can do it. My mom is getting ready. She's 82, and she's getting ready to start it at any point now. She's just turned 82, and she's gonna give it 3 months and see how it goes for her. She's got a couple of issues and wants to see if it'll fix them up.
That's awesome. Forrest, if people want to reach out to you, do you have a YouTube or any social media where they can get in contact?
I don't have a YouTube channel or anything like that. I just watch YouTube. If anybody wants to get a hold of me and ask questions, I have an email I can give, I guess. It's riverpaddle@gmail. So if anybody wants to ask me a question. But I'm pretty much garden variety. I mean, I think that the way my situation went down is pretty much the way a lot of people that got into their 30s and 40s and 50s, that's pretty much how it goes for us. As we, get ourselves into a situation, we keep getting fatter and fatter, and now we have metabolic syndrome, and then we have to deal with that. But yeah, if they want to get a hold of me and ask me questions, that'll be great.
No worries. So I include the your email in the show notes.
Sure.
Forrest, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.